So I am Farhan, I'm a software engineer and I'm also a staff at freeCodeCamp. So I've been with Aviyel since last year, I guess, and from the very beginning, I have been assigned a lot of tasks around Typesense. So I have learned a thing or two about this excellent project. So in today's session, I will be showing not showing, but discussing a really high-level overview of Typesense as a software, how it works, and how one may get started with it. So there will be no code during the entire session. It will be mostly me talking, and I'll be showing you a few diagrams. So let's start with the obvious. You may already know what Typesense is. It's a lightning-fast open-source search, which is typo-tolerant, and they really value developer experience. And what they mean by that is Typesense really wants the developer to feel good about using it. There are certain frameworks or technologies or libraries that are popular, but they're not fun to use. Typesense, on the other hand, it's really popular, it's really powerful, and it's really fun and easy to use. So now I will share my screen and I will basically draw a little diagram of how Typesense works in a server level, how you may integrate it in an application, and maybe I will show one or two demos along the way. Okay, so I'm sharing my screen now. Okay, so now I'm going to draw a simple diagram of how Typesense works in an application environment. Okay, so let's say that I have a server here, somewhere either in AWS or DigitalOcean or maybe Azure, anything that you like. So I have a server here, and inside this server I have a React application. So this is my React application. Yeah, I know. Mistake. So this is my React application. It can be anything. It can be an e-commerce application, or maybe like to-do app, or maybe social network, anything. It's just a regular React application. And in most cases where we have front-end applications like this, we usually have an API. So this can be our backend API. Now, this backend APIs can be made with anything is starting from like Python, Node.js, PHP, or .NET, or whatever you like. So usually what happens is whenever a user comes in, we should be outside of the server, I guess. So whenever an user comes in and sends a request to the front-end React application, so whenever a user comes in and sends a request to the React application then reaches out to the backend API, lets it know what the user is looking for. Maybe if it is a bookshop website, maybe the user is looking for a book, or maybe trying to add some book to the cart. Whatever he is trying to do, the React application will let the backend API know. Then the backend API will eventually perform some operations on the database, which may be running on the same server. So here the backend API will be performing some operations on the database, and then the database will give the data back to the backend API, and the backend API will feed that to the React application, and the React application will send it back to the user himself. Okay, that looks bad. Yeah. So the React application sends the response back to the user. So this is how a typical application works in any production environment. Now, what if you want to introduce a search feature here? So let me show you a bunch of possibilities that we usually see in sites like this. The first one is you will actually use this backend API to search your database for what the user is looking for. So Going back to the example where this is a book selling website, the user may come in and search for a book. The React applications will send that book name to the backend API. The backend API will look for it in the database and then send the response back. Okay, so this is not a bad approach, but what happens is the user can search using a lot of things, right? They can come in and search using like the author name. They can search using the published year, maybe the ratings and whatnot, a lot of things. So once you have started implementing a search feature, you will see that there are a lot of things that you have to take care of. Not even speaking about the mistakes that the user may make. Let's say they're looking for the alchemist, but they misspell the word alchemist. Okay, so there will be no book in the database with that name. So things like that, these things can become really complicated really soon if you're trying to implement a search feature manually. This is where Typesense comes in. Okay, so Typesense, like this backend API here, runs as a separate application on the same server. So let's say our server has an address of like mybookshop.com. Okay, so let's say this is the URL for my React application, and by default, usually the main front-end application of a server runs on the default port, which is 80. I think you guys already know that in any server, 80 is the default port. Okay, so this is where the React application runs. So any request that comes to mybookshop.com port 80, it will be redirected to this React application. The backend API runs in a different port, maybe 8080 or something like that, and the database is on a completely different port. Okay, so that's how they run. Now the Typesense application here, it runs as a completely separate API sort of Typesense, and the default port for Typesense is, I will have to look that up because it's something that I don't memorize. Yeah, it usually runs on 8108. So the Typesense server will be running in port 8108. So 8108. And this is maybe 8080. Okay, so this is how the applications usually run. Now Typesense, it has its own database. It has its own really fast NoSQL database in the backend. Okay, so whenever a user comes and searches for a book or maybe anything, any data at all, the React application, instead of talking to the backend API, it will talk to the Typesense server directly. The React application will Typesense know that, hey, my user is looking for this, and the Typesense server, what it will do is it will search its database really quick within sub-millisecond delay, find what he can and send it back to the React application. So the backend API and our backend database will not be disturbed at all. Typesense will be there just to handle the user searches. Okay, so that's how Typesense runs within a server alongside maybe a front-end application and a back-end application and the databases. I will come to this database later, and I will also talk about how the data ends up in this database. But first, let's get this architecture done. So usually we set up our firewalls in a way that this 8080 port and this 8108 port will be inaccessible from the outside, but only the port 80 port will be accessible from the outside. These two will not be public. Okay, not even the databases. So that's how an application looks with Typesense with it. So if anyone has a question, maybe about so far what I have talked about, you guys may ask that. I'll just wait for 5 minutes and then go ahead with rest of the topics. So okay, let's wait till 10:15. Yeah, I can brief you on firewall a little bit actually. So again, let's say this is our server on the cloud and this is running Ubuntu. That's what I usually run on server side. Okay. Now within this Ubuntu server, I have MySQL, SQL, Nginx, and maybe something else running in the background. So what I do is I create a firewall in front of it. It's usually UWF, UFW, I guess. Yeah, this is the UFW, which is uncomplicated firewall for Linux. I use this one. And what I do is I open port 80, okay, which is Nginx's port. And this can be done with simple one-line commands. So whenever a user comes and sends a request to port 80, it will be responded by the server. But if the actor sends a request to, for say, MySQL runs on 3306 or Redis runs on, I don't even remember the actual port number. So any other port than port 80, that request will be rejected automatically from the server. So if someone's trying to access my my database or my cache server or anything like that to do some harm to my server, they will be unable to do that. And I will also hide these details from the public. They will be only available within the local host of the server. Only thing that will be open for public is this Nginx server. I think that should do it, but there is a lot that we can talk about, like subnets and firewalls and things like that, maybe in some other session. So if there is any other question, I'll be happy to answer. Okay, I guess there are no questions. So yeah, just I hope you have understood it, Mangrove. Okay, so let's keep going. Now, the next question that I would like to bring up is, how does Typesense know what's in my database? Okay. Considering this is a bookshop, my database may have a list of books, a list of authors, and along with those tables, there will be the release date of all those books, their ratings, and their availability, and a lot of stuff that we usually store in an e-commerce application, right? In an e-commerce application. So Typesense will not know it right away. Okay, when Typesense starts in your computer, it will be dumb. It will know nothing at all. It will have just an empty database to go with. Then you will have to feed the data to Typesense. You will have to let him know that these are the things I have in my database. These are the things that you should query, like answer for. Okay. So I'd like to refer to the Typesense docs for this, because when you are working with Typesense, at the end of the day, the only thing that you have is the documentation, and this is your best friend. So it's always great if you get used to reading docs by yourself. Okay. So as we can see, let's come down here. Yes. So here is creating the books collection. Okay. So there is the concept of collections and documents in Typesense. So if this is the Typesense database, and this is just a zoomed in view of the Typesense database. Now we are inside the Typesense database. Okay, we have gone inside the Typesense database. So here there will be collection of multiple things. So maybe I have a collection of books here. So these are my books, and I can store data about individual books within like this collection. Okay, so maybe I have the Harry Potter books. That's fine. Just give me a second. Yeah, maybe I will have the Harry Potter books, then the Alchemist, then maybe Adolfo Hindu Hotel, then yeah, you get my idea, right? There can be these books within this collection. So, so this is a collection of books, okay? And this collection contains a bunch of information about a bunch of books that are in my database. And what kind of database is this? If you ask, this is a NoSQL database. This is exactly how Mongo works. There will be multiple collections of data, and in each collection there will be multiple documents that will describe a certain entity within your database. So within this collection, Harry Potter can be a document, and this document, this Harry Potter document, this can have multiple information within it. So there will be the author name, there will be the release year, there will be the ratings, typical things that we want to know about a book. So that will be here. So that's what a collection is, and that's what a document is, and this is the entire Typesense database. So you can actually insert this data to this collection using a multiple way. Okay. The first one is you can obviously talk to the Typesense server itself using curl or something like that, and feed the data to it, or you can use one of the language specific libraries like in JavaScript, in PHP, Python, Ruby, Java, etc. So you will just create a single script that will read the data you want to insert in the Typesense database and then insert it to the database. I have already written maybe 2 articles on this. They are like detailed tutorials, so you guys can just check them out. One of them is with JavaScript and the other one is with PHP. So I'll not get into all these codes at the moment. So once we have the data feeded to our Typesense database, we can then query for them. Okay, and querying is really easy. If I come to searching for books, this is how you like search for a book. Okay, so you can just send Typesense the query what you are looking for and what you are searching by. Maybe you are searching by the title, then you will have to tell Typesense like, hey Typesense, I am looking for Harry Potter. I'm looking for a book with the title Harry Potter. Or maybe you can search by author. In that case, we'll have to say, hey Typesense, I'm looking for the books written by J.K. Rowling, or maybe someone else, or Rabindranath Tagore, and anyone that you may fancy reading. So that's how you can search, and Typesense will be kind enough to look into its database, find all the books it can find, and get back to you within a few milliseconds. Okay, so that's how the database works in a high level. If you want like the detailed tutorials, I have already said that I have written 2 of them. I think maybe Siddharth or someone else can drop the links for if you want to look at them. Okay, so that's what Typesense is. in a nutshell. That's how it works behind the scenes. So, are there any questions on so far what I have explained? If there are, please shoot. I will answer them and then go forward with rest of the presentation. So, session. Okay, let's just continue on, I guess. So we have waited a few minutes. What are the competitors of Typesense? They are usually, Algolia, and there is another one, Elasticsearch or Algolia. These are the competitors of Typesense. And as I can say from my past experiences, some of these tools are a little bit hard to use, or in some cases they are not free. Typesense, on the other hand, is open source and free, and it's freaking fast because it's written in C++. So, all right, going forward. So I have already said how it runs behind the scenes. Now I will show you a demo of a Typesense application running. I guess the Typesense website has a few reference implementation. So the first one is the recipe search. It's going to the live demo thing. So in this instant search 2 million recipes powered by Typesense, this is one of the reference implementation of Typesense. So we can just come here and search for something like maybe pasta. And as you can see, it was really, really fast. There are a lot of ingredients on the left side, and all the search results are on the right side. Okay, so I can filter them with let's say olive oil, because that's what I like. There's also pasta, there's basil, and I guess something parmesan cheese here. Okay, so after I have filtered them, I can look into the cooking direction and they will just show up. So this is a classic case of using Typesense with just a front end application. I can see. Okay, let's look into the hotel, I guess. So as you can see, a GET request has been made, and there are more. Okay, I can find any request to show. So yeah, this is one case of using Typesense, and the show more results is usually Typesense sends you maybe 15 or 25 results in a single go. And then if you want to see more, you can just implement sort of like a show more results button, because Typesense results are already paginated and Typesense will keep giving back new results to you. Okay, so that's one thing. So this is implementation. The other one that I would like to show is Linux commit search and e-commerce system. Yeah, this is nice. So I can mix it. So this is the Linux commit message search. So what you can do is you can actually search for individual commits within the Linux kernel repository itself. If you guys know, it's open source and anyone can just go in and put in code. So let's say I want to filter the results by Linus Torvalds, so I can only see results that are being committed by Linus Torvalds. I can also filter them by committer. There is multiple things. There is the author, there is a committer, and I can also use email domain. I can filter really granularly with number of files changes, commit insertions, and things like that. And I guess I can see the details. Okay. So, yeah, I can see the differences with clicking on view. So that's another example of Typesense, and you can see how fast it is. Okay, so it is searching for what I'm looking for within 1 million, 1 million commit messages. So if I look for mainframe, yeah, it was almost instant. If I look for stupid, then stupid logic, possibly just not that. Okay, there's urgent and PostgreSQL. What I mean is the search is really, really, really fast. Okay, then there is the e-commerce application. It has images in it, so let's check it out how fast it is. Let's search for an iPhone. It's available. Okay, so there are a bunch of results with iPhone now. If I misspell iPhone with iPhone, I guess I will still get some results. Yeah, I'm getting some results with phone in it. So yeah, also there are some iPhone results. So this is what typo tolerance is. Even if you uh, misspell some of the query words, you will still get some results back from Typesense. It's never completely blank. It at least knows something. Okay. So one thing that I'd like to show is if you do not pass any query parameter at all, Typesense just returns all the data it can find automatically, and you can also use this per page variable to adjust the pagination, because all the search results are paginated automatically. Okay? The recipe search, yeah, there are a bunch of other searches, but I think you guys have got the idea about how fast Typesense is. It can really search for things within millions of records in almost instant. Okay, and it is really stable. It works most of the time. I won't say every time, because sometimes your server can crash. So that's not a fault of Typesense itself. The other thing I would like to say is setting up Typesense is really, really easy. You can just use one of their Docker images, or you can just download the C++ binary itself. Unfortunately, it's not supported on Windows, but you can always run it on WSL maybe. One of my articles uses WSL to demonstrate what I was doing. So yeah, that's it. The guide section here has a bunch of walkthroughs that you guys can follow. There are some how-tos teaching you some fundamental things like updating Typesense and things like that. Then there are the cookbooks. And if you think you have gained some experience with using Typesense, installing it, setting it up, and integrating it with your applications, then you can go into the API reference section, and they have really good docs around it. So let's say I'm working in a PHP application. I can just come in here and look for the thing that I'm trying to do. Maybe I'm trying to create a collection, and this is how I can create that, and things like that. And I have two project references for you guys today that you guys can check out once we're done with this session. So the first one is just search Typesense. Yeah, these are the two. So the first one is I have tried to implement Typesense within a Vue application. You guys can just check it out, and I have an article live on this topic. Do I need to have a lot of coding experience to use Typesense? No, you don't need a lot of coding experience, because most of the things are explained really well in the docs, and as long as you know the basics of working with web application, like if you're a JavaScript developer, if you want to work with JavaScript, as long as you know how to create a simple application, maybe front end or back end, how to make queries to outside services using Axios or maybe the Fetch API or Ajax, basically, you should be good to go. And the things that you do not know, you can just figure them out as you go forward. Most of us do that. We figure things out. Like let's first say if you are completely new to Typesense and you have just set it up using the guides. So let's say you have come to the guide section here and followed the installing a client, install Typesense, these two particular things here. And let's say you have a Typesense server up and running. Now you are trying to create a collection. You can always go to the API reference, come to collections, create a collection, and you will have like code snippets ready for you to copy and paste to your actual code bases. And these codes ready to work. And if you are not comfortable with referencing the API reference at this moment, you can always look up to other project implementations like the ones I have made or the ones that they have within their guides. Okay, so let's say for book search, if we go here, and here is the source code. You can always go ahead and look at their source code and try to understand what they are doing and why they are doing it. They also have some explanation here, so you can just look at the codes and understand by yourself. Okay, see I'll just drop the project links here. I guess chats, maybe. The first one is there, the second one. So you can just check out these repositories as well as the articles linked to these individual repositories. They are all on the Aviyel platform. So this was Typesense in a nutshell. I don't have anything individually to add except for one last concept, that is high availability. So what Typesense lets you do is, let's say you are getting a lot of searches. Okay, there are websites that we go to and search for things and we don't buy it. Like for example, I go to StarTech a lot and I search for arbitrary things like keyboards and whatnot. Then I look at their price and come back. Maybe I will buy someday, but not right now. So I do a lot of search on their site. Okay. So if you're seeing that your site is getting a lot of searches and the Typesense server is getting overwhelmed by the traffic it's getting, then you can actually make multiple copies of your Typesense server running on different ports. This is a little bit hard to explain with just a single diagram. See, so this way your Typesense server will become highly available. So if for some reason this one goes down completely, like this one doesn't exist, as if it has crashed, then the React application will go to the next instance, or maybe it will use the round robin algorithm kind of to juggle between the three to distribute the load evenly. So that's one of the features of Typesense. It can be configured as highly available, and if you'll learn about it when you start working. And if you are not trying to set up Typesense all by yourself, like downloading maybe Docker and the image and configuring it manually, you can always use their cloud service, the Typesense Cloud. So what Typesense Cloud is? Typesense Cloud is a cloud service where Typesense is already up and running. You can just feed its database of what you want to be searched, and then use this one as your Typesense instance. That's another thing you can do. You can check out the pricing if it works for you. Just go ahead, use this one instead of setting up Typesense manually. No, it really comes down to choice. If you feel like that setting up a Typesense server is too much work for you, go for the cloud. If you feel like you want to set it up yourself and learn more about Typesense, set it up yourself. Do whatever that suits your needs and your desires. So yeah, that was it from my end. If there are any questions, I can answer them. Yeah, we have a question. Does any website or organizations using Typesense? Yes, like Siddharth said, Aviyel itself is using Typesense, and if you want to learn which ones are using Typesense, I guess their website has kind of a list. Let me check. Yeah, there are a bunch that are using like Typesense. according to their website, I would suggest to go to typesense.org and just check out their website, check out their about page, and you will find a bunch of organizations or projects rather that are using Typesense. Okay, it's kind of hard to list them out one by one.
This was morely a introductory session to give you an idea of how Typesense is structured and how you can make use of it. And the demo part of it was also an add-on where you get an idea of how this can be used. We hope that's all for today, and that's all the questions we have for today. Thank you, Farhan, for joining us, and thank you to the audience. We'll see you in the next session. Goodbye.